Story number 1 is as follows. Rise Against the Odds. Takes place in the fall of 2015. Now, for those who do not know, Rise Against is my most favorite band ever. You wouldn't guess it because I tend to prefer video games, soundtracks, everything that comes with that genre. But Rise Against is actually my favorite band. I love them very much. And also, most notably, my brother loves them very much. Now, for those of you who had heard the Salt Lake City and the New Jersey regional stories, you know that I have flight benefits as part of my job. Which involves standby flights, crossing your fingers, hoping that you get on a flight. This is a very similar story. I have worked for the company before. I left on good terms and came back, so I was able to leverage these flight benefits for the Salt Lake City and New Jersey regionals. But this was the first time that I was at this job. This is Bauer Mom's great idea. She said, why don't you and your brother go see Rise Against in Florida for his birthday? Because my brother was born in November and Rise Against was doing a concert in Orlando in October. So she was like, use your flight benefits, make a weekend of it, go up there. And yes, Bauer Mom, great wife and sister-in-law, they weren't playing anywhere near close to us. It's true. It's very sad. I ran this by my brother. I was like, hey, for your birthday, let's fly out to Orlando. Let's see Rise Against. Let's come back the next day. We can make the trip. We'll party it up. It'll be super cheap and we can come back. And he was like, that sounds great. Now enters the flight RNG, because we had standby flights to Orlando that looked really, really good. We were definitely going to get on them. It was not a big deal. And so the plan was I was going to drive to the airport on Saturday morning. I was going to drive to my job on Saturday morning. Was going to drive us to my job. We were going to take the shuttle that goes from my work to the DFW airport. There's a free shuttle that runs because there are people who have office buildings on this road and like need to shuttle back and forth to the airport. So there's a shuttle that runs. And I planned it all out. We're going to take the shuttle to the airport and we're going to go fly in, and we're going to rent a car and all that good stuff. We're on time to my office. We go and we park at my work, and we go and we walk up the road to the shuttle stop. The shuttle doesn't come. It's supposed to be going on 30-minute intervals, and it doesn't come. And I was thinking, okay, well, maybe it was just early. Maybe it was just early. It was not just early. As it turns out, I had never taken this shuttle on a Saturday before, and the shuttle was actually not running early enough for us to get to our flight. So we walk back to my car, and my brother and I are panicking because we got these tickets and stuff, and we're like, how are we gonna? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I used my badge. I went into my office building, and I was basically in our flight system, the thing that we use to book our standby flights. And I was like, okay, here's what we can do. Here's what we can do. We can get a flight to Miami. There's a flight to Miami that looks really good. We can get a flight to Miami. We can rent a car. We can drive 3 hours up to Orlando, and then we can still make the concert, and we can fly out of Orlando in the morning. And he was like, okay, do you think it's gonna work? And I was like, yes, this is definitely going to work. He was like, okay, fine. We get in the car and we drive to the airport. The shuttle is no longer gonna help us. We're just drive to the airport. We, suffer the terminal parking for like 2 nights. There's like a problem with security. It's really congested. We're like getting through the gates and stuff. And we're like, oh gosh, this is awful. We're getting this later flight to Miami, and the plan is still okay, but it's kind of falling apart. It's not as good as the plan that we originally had. We get through security, and we get some coffee, and we sit down at our gate, and we're just kind of lamenting the new plan. We're gonna have to go, we're gonna have to land, we're gonna have to rent a car. And I was looking up the flight stats. For our flight. I was like, okay, our flight looks good. And I noticed something else when I looked up the flight stats. The original flight that my brother and I planned to take to Orlando got delayed by 2 hours, and it still had a bunch of seats on it, and it was leaving from the gate next to the gate we were at in 10 minutes. I walked over to the gate agent and I said, hey, can we switch to this flight? And he said, sure. And we got on the flight. We made it to Orlando. It was a great concert and we made it back. It was fantastic. The second story, What Dreams Are Made Of. This story requires a little bit of context. I currently play Pokemon. I play Pokemon Sword, and I've been to 2 regionals this year. They're my first in-person Pokemon events. Went to Salt Lake City, and I went to New Jersey. Santacos says, what are those toys in the image? I'm glad you asked. I'll be getting to that momentarily. You should know that while it's my first rodeo for Pokemon, it is not my first rodeo for other tournament experiences. I have traveled to various places and played various games competitively. I've been to Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, I've been to Smash Brothers tournaments, Melee and Brawl, and I've played Battle Spirits, which is a card game. I've played, what's the other one? I think now it's just this one. The other very notable game, the Duel Masters Hamburger Shoes. Thank you, Hamburger Shoes, Duel Masters. My brother and I both made nationals 2 years in a row on that game. Like, I can't believe I forgot that one. Anyway, played various games competitively, so I'm no stranger to the tournament scene. One such game that we played is displayed by the miniatures behind me in this background. This game is called Dreamblade, and the best way that I can think of to describe Dreamblade is it is a combination of Magic the Gathering and chess. It is like peak nerd. You play on a 5x5 grid, and the goal is to control space, to kill your opponent's pieces and try and position your own pieces over key points of the map where you score points. And at the end of each turn, whoever performed better scores a point on the victory track. And the first to 6 points wins. Is Duel Masters Yu-Gi-Oh related? Bowermon, did Bower Dad invent this game? Remember when we first started dating and you were super into Kaijudo? Yes, Kaijudo! Duel Masters? Okay. Lots of good questions. Kaijudo is a re-release remaster of Duel Masters. Duel Masters is not Yu-Gi-Oh related, which is confusing because in the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, they refer to the game as Duel Monsters. Not the same. What are these games? Man, I thought I was a nerd. I have no cred. It's okay, Santacos. I'm glad we got lots of people playing their games. Nah, bro, you're old. So, Dreamblade, Magic the Gathering, and chess, and you roll dice, and your pieces, your minis have little abilities on the base, and they have special attacks that they can do. It was really, really cool, and way more skill-based than you would think for a game in which one of the primary mechanics is dice rolling. That you roll dice to attack. That brings us to the start of our story. I have a tournament that I want to go to. Me and a handful of buddies, like a carpool. And this is right after I had graduated high school, and a bunch of us are around that age, and like nobody drives. We sucker our parents into taking us to this thing. So we all load up in a van and we drive up to Kansas City, Missouri from Texas in order to attend this 10K Dreamblade, think like a regional level tournament. We planned our trip to get to a hotel the night before the event and then participate in this 10K tournament. For some god-awful reason, which I still can't really explain or understand, our trip was made a little bit longer. My arms are going off the screen here. We didn't arrive at our hotel until 4 o'clock in the morning, the day of the tournament. No one has slept at all. We arrive at this hotel, and basically we're gonna pay an entire night for a hotel to sleep there for like 2 hours is what we're gonna do. And we get there, it's 4 in the morning, we're hungry, nobody has slept. It was a disaster of planning. Again, I don't know how this happened. And so we go to the hotel, we get a couple hours of sleep, and we go to the venue. And this is the like the biggest tournament I think that I've been to besides the Pokemon regionals. I want to say there were over 100 people here. Very competitive. A lot of the top name players were there. I won't bother naming them because you wouldn't know them anyway, according to Doodlebop that made this game up. Yes, I still have boxes. I still have boxes of these miniatures. We need some food. Anything that we were planning on doing by the time we got into town, we did not get to do. We didn't get to do. We didn't have food. We didn't have anything. This was not a dream that I had. This was a real thing. Went to this tournament. The only food that we could find nearby this convention center was like a McDonald's. So my mother walks across the street to McDonald's at like 9 in the morning and buys 20 double cheeseburgers for our group. So bear in mind, this entire day, we are subsisting entirely on McDonald's double cheeseburgers. I sit down with my warband for whatever reason. Hear me when I say this. Hear me when I say this. I am the sort of person who is fundamentally against staying up late the night before to grind practice. The science isn't there. The people who stay up late the night before to practice really hard and then get 2 hours of sleep and then go dominate at a tournament, like, they're the exception, not the rule. Just always get your sleep. Always get your sleep. I sit down for my round one, and I remember like pressing my palms into my eye sockets because I'm just that tired. Like, I can't even keep it together. And I start completely and totally dominating this event. I went like 7 or 8-0 before just like drawing out of the last round and getting into the top 8 cut. In between every round, just munching a cheeseburger and just beating everybody up and going to Dreamblade. I made it to the top 8 playoffs, but I lost the first round. So I got 8th. I got 8th in that tournament. I got $500 for that. I got $500 for that. Pure adrenaline and instincts. The next day, there was a 1K tournament. The game is not still active. The game shortly died after this event, actually. It's very sad. All the games I play get killed. I don't know. The next day, they had a limited format 1K tournament. And that means you open some booster packs of pieces, you put them in a box, and you shuffle them around, and you get somebody else's box. And you just have to make a team with... You just have to make a team with whatever it is. Went back to the hotel and got like 12 hours of sleep, I feel like. So the next day there was a smaller tournament that was limited format. You get random pieces. You do not select your warbands. You open pieces there and make your team on the spot. You have to open your booster packs and write down what was in the boxes before sealing it and passing it around to somebody else. This is to prevent cheating. So when I'm opening up my pieces, I got the nuts pulls. I got so many excellent pieces all together. It was super unfair, and there's a bug on my webcam that whoever gets this is just going to dominate the whole tournament. I go to my round 1 pairing, the physical pairings. I go up to round 1 pairing, and jokingly I said, "Oh, I'm gonna have to play against Robert Hatch or some nonsense." You don't know who Robert Hatch is. Robert Hatch is the #1 rated Dreamblade player in the world at the time. Lo and behold, who am I playing against in round 1 but Robert Hatch? Not only am I playing against Robert Hatch, but Robert Hatch is holding the box that I drew and marked. I knew the pieces he got and I knew they were amazing. And I was like, this isn't really happening. If you're just really hoping we're gonna beat Robert Hatch, he's a scrub, I know. I know you really want me to say that I beat Robert Hatch and I was a hero, but I didn't. However, the turn count was 6-4. Nuts player with a Nuts team like barely won. So I was feeling pretty good about myself. But I did lose about the first round. I did lose the first round, but I won all the rest of the Swiss rounds, and I cut top 4. And then I played like an idiot in my semifinals match, so I didn't advance past that. But I got another $200 for that. So we drove home, and I was $700 richer, which is really significant because I was about to move to college, and I didn't have a dime to my name. When I got to college that fall, I had $700 in my pocket from playing Dreamblade. Who wants to hear about the most jarring thing that's ever happened to me in high school? We're 2-0 and making memories, though. It's true. It's true. We're 2-0 and making memories. Hamburger shoes, you make a good point. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Okay, this is when I was in high school. I think this was junior year. I think this was junior year of high school. Now, this was not any special week. This was not any special event. This was simply the day of a pep rally. This was simply the day of a pep rally. I'm a very introverted person. I was even less outgoing back in high school. So I don't do I don't do sports. I don't do extracurricular events. I don't do pep. All right. Pep rally is everything that I don't like about being in high school. It's a day that starts off like any other, and I am in my physics class. I'm doing my lab work, just going about my business. While we're going about our business, the Grim Reaper walks into our classroom, and we're all just exchanging glances, except for our teacher, who doesn't seem fazed by this. Let me remind you, this is not October. We are not close to Halloween. This is very abnormal. Our teacher is wrong for not reacting in some sort of way. The Grim Reaper comes up and approaches one of the girls in our class and just taps their scythe down a couple of times and holds up his hand. And he takes this girl by the hand and just walks her out of the room. They don't say anything. She doesn't say anything. All the classmates are like, what is going on here? What is going on here? Our teacher is playing it off like nothing has even occurred. This girl walks back into our classroom, maybe 45 minutes later, done with makeup, designed to look like that she was in a horrific car accident. And it was really, really good. It was really, really good. Takes her back to her seat, and the Grim Reaper announces that our friend has been killed in a drunk driving related accident. And the Grim Reaper leaves, and this girl continues her work as if nothing had happened. However, she does not respond to anybody that talks to her. She has a little card that she hands to her teacher, basically getting her out of speaking or interacting to anyone. The point was she wasn't there anymore. And this happened to several of our other classmates just over the course of the day, and I'd see the car accident victims just walking around the hall, and it was super jarring. It was upsetting, but they all just continued on their days as if nothing had happened. The teachers continued along their days as if nothing had happened, and all of the other students who aren't, I guess in on it, are panicking. We're like, what is going on here? Am I gonna be next? What is this even about? Like I said, this wasn't Dare Week. This wasn't Red Ribbon Week. This wasn't a drug-free program for the week that schools do, and they're like, hey, no drugs. Poppin' Tarts, your school did this as well? Poppin' Tarts. Also, welcome. Good to have you, Poppin' Tarts. Thanks for the first time chat. I'm glad you're coming in on what is arguably the most horrifying story I have for the entire series. We get to this pep rally, and we're all sitting down, and you can just feel it in the air. This is not going to be about how our football team is going to beat the other football team, or our basketball or sports ball team. I don't even know what was going on. I didn't pay attention in these things. All the sports stars being celebrated was like a who's who of my bullies in high school. I didn't care about this at all. And the room gets dark. And they throw up on the projector, a scene. My friends, driving in a car, Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz is playing on the radio. The driver loses control, spirals out. There's a crash that coincides with a horrible crunching metal crashing noise outside of the gymnasium where the pep rally is. And our principal swings open the doors and she says, there's been a car crash. Everybody come outside. And we just nervously filed outside. And there was a super mangled car, not unlike this one, wrapped in police tape and stuff. And there were blankets with hopefully fake bodies under them with blood everywhere and smashed windows. And it was a gruesome sight. And the Grim Reaper shows up and talks about how our friends were claimed by drunk driving. And the Grim Reaper, not the principal, the Grim Reaper ushers us back in to the building and we're all seated again. I need some water. Oh man, I need some water. We sit back down and there's another video. There's another video that they show on the screen. It's a funeral. It's a funeral for the friends for their fake car crash. And they have like baby pictures and like home movies of them doing cute stuff. And they wrote like obituaries and fake, like they did the whole 9 yards. The kids' parents were at the pep rally and they were sobbing. They were bawling, even though they know this isn't real right now. Just absolutely losing it. Kids who were close to the victims in this scenario were just losing their minds. They were sobbing. And I was like, I'm not really close to any of these people, but I am so scared right now. I have no idea what's going on. They end this video in loving memory and they're just, and then they like throw back this curtain and all the students who had been killed like had their makeup cleared and they were happy again and and the parents hugged and they were screaming and crying and it was, dude, I never complained about a pep rally ever again. We have one story left for the month of July. I'm about to show you the best GameCube game ever made. The best game ever made for the Nintendo GameCube was Kirby Air Ride. Kirby Air Ride. This game is off the freaking hook. Monkey Ball 2, also a good title. Kirby Air Ride was the absolute coolest game ever. It was so cool. It was Melee. I knew it. I demand a refund. So, here's the thing. For those of you who haven't played Kirby Air Ride, this game is so cool because it has like 30 different vehicles. And aside from, like, when you compare it to other racing games that are like, oh, you have vehicles and some of them have better handling, some of them have better top speed, better acceleration. All of these different vehicles in Kirby Air Ride, like, they're actually super, super different. Like, it's like playing a different game depending on what vehicle you have. And the beauty of it was in Kirby Air Ride, Wagon Star stand, up smash, you time out up smash. I'm gonna time out up smash. I'm just kidding. Oh no, hold on. I'm confusing that with Bulk Star. Bulk Star was heinous. That thing was ridiculous. But anyway, the beauty of Kirby Air Ride was you use the joystick to steer and you would hold A to slide and you could slide around corners and let go and you would boost. And that was it. There was no brake. There was nothing like that. Just the joystick and the A button. That was literally it. This is all you could do. It was so fun. There was this mode called City Trial where they would just let you and 3 friends loose in this city and you would drive around with your vehicles. And if you wanted another vehicle, you had to physically find it and hop off your vehicle and grab the other one and drive around with it. And you could gather different power-ups, things that would raise your top speed, your attack, your defense, what have you. And then at the end of a predetermined time limit, you would compete in an event with whatever vehicle you had mustered up over the time limit. It was super cool. Highly recommend this game. Is absolutely outstanding. This is the first piece of context for this story. The second piece of context for this story is summer of 2005. I spent with my dad. My parents were split up since circa 2001. My parents have been split up. My dad lived in a different town about 30 minutes drive from where I grew up. I was really excited to get a summer job because I was an idiot when I was in high school. Was really excited to work and I was like, oh yeah, I really want to get a summer job. And my dad said, hey, you could come work at my company, not a company that he owned, but like at the same place that he worked, not for him or on his team or anything, but I could just go work there. This place was awful. I made $6 an hour to move stuff around in a big metal box, sorry, excuse for a building, in the Texas heated summer. Like, I'm pretty sure the working conditions were actually illegal. It was ridiculous. Like, we had thermometers on site, and it was very frequently between like 115 and 120. There was one water fountain in the entire thing. It was in like the manager's little office. I'd frequently be taking trips there. But I still have fond memories working there with my dad. But this place was awful. I'm spending this summer staying with my dad. Spending the summer staying with my dad. Because of that, he got into Kirby Air Ride. Now, bear in mind, before Kirby Air Ride, the last and only other video game he ever really played was Miss Pac-Man for the Sega Genesis. When I was like a wee lad, we had a Sega Genesis and we got Miss Pac-Man for the Sega Genesis, and that's something that we all played. He doesn't game, but we're living together over the summer and he wants to branch out a little bit. He wants me to teach him a game. And I was like, you know what? I know that you like the idea of racing games. This one is simple to play. It's straightforward to play. The controls are not complicated. I think you can do this. And he was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. So we got to playing Kirby Air Ride. As you might expect, my dad did not win any races in Kirby Air Ride. He didn't do the city trial or any of the other game modes, which are super cool, by the way. But we just did regular old-fashioned races because that's what he wanted to do. Just me versus him, a versus scenario in which we would be racing. And he didn't win. I didn't go easy on him because I knew he wouldn't appreciate that. So I never went easy on him. And I would just demolish him over and over and over again. And every night we would race about 20 times and I would win 20 times. Until one fateful evening, we race and my dad wins. My dad wins the race by a margin of about 1.5 seconds. He finishes the third lap. He was so excited. He jumped up. He spilled the soda that he had on the floor and knocked over his own lamp and like shattered the light bulb. Like, he just broke a bunch of stuff and he stood up. He was like, I don't care. I won. JD, you get that name out of my chat. You will not speak that name in this chat. He wins. We hadn't even done the 20 races. He was just like, I'm done. I did it. I win. My dad is not a sore winner, but I will remind you that we have, at this point in the story, we've raced about 1,000 times and he's won 0 times. This is the first time that he won out of 2 times that he will win over the course of the entire summer. So he's really enjoying it. He wins. We wrap up for the evening and we go to bed. Next day at work, I go in and I'm getting my assignment from my supervisor. And he always handed me like a little piece of paper and it just had like a list of things that I needed to move from A to B or load onto a pallet or anything like that needed to be done for the day. He would always hand me a paper. And I come in, his name is Marvin. I was like, all right, Marvin, what's the work for today? And he was like, oh, hey, Josh, I got a special assignment for you. And I'm like, okay. So he hands me a piece of paper. And I look at it and it is my race time and my dad's race time for the winning race that he won. Just our 2 race times, top and bottom. He just hands me this paper and my boss walks away. Like, he isn't even going to give me a real assignment. Like, he just wanted to troll me. Like, he hands me this piece of paper that has our race times on it. And I took it. I was like, what the heck? I just went and did some other stuff that I knew needed to be done. And I was like, oh man, he really got me. On the first break, I went into the one single room with the water fountain, and there were our race times taped to the water fountain. I went to the bathroom, and I went to wash my hands, taped to the sink. Our race times taped to the sink. Bear in mind, like, I never saw my father this day at work. Like, he was just planting these, and I never saw him at any point. There was one on the sink. There was one by the water. There was... I finished my assignment. Like, my boss came back and actually gave me a real assignment. I finished that. I was like, okay. And he goes, okay, I got some more for you. He handed me a second one that he had just the race times. At one point, I want to set the stage here. I work in like a warehouse. So it's like 2 stories, but like it's not, there's no middle. You can just see, it's like just a big open area. So there's a clock that's hanging way up in the sky, almost too far away to where you can't really even read the time. And at one point after lunch, I'm wondering to myself, all right, how much longer until the end of the day? And I look up, and taped over the clock that is high above the ground are the race times. I found them in a few other places, and we're getting ready to go back home. And he was like, did you enjoy the signs? And I said, yes, very much. I enjoyed them. And he was like, thanks for being a good sport. You know, we're all done with the signs. We're all done with the signs. And so we're walking back to the car. And I go to open my door, and I don't look, because you don't need to look in order, you know where your car handles are. You know, I've been riding with my dad for a couple months now in his car. And so I go, but I don't catch the door handle. There's nothing there. It's just smooth. It's like the door handle isn't there. And taped onto the passenger side door handle is, again, the race times.